our event guide map. So this is a listing of artist booth numbers. We'll be giving out and handing out the booth numbers probably in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be printing up these, and we use these as posters on community boards, and we distribute on site to visitors. They're also available if you would like to pick some up, or they will be available if you'd like to pick some up and distribute them. We are running an ad campaign, City Post Magazine, the September issue in North Toronto, Bayview, North York, Yorkville Post, and then they give us a bonus publication or two. We do a large 2/5 page ad, and that will be coming out soon. We advertise pretty heavily with BlogTO and Globe Digital, and this is a great time to talk about a marketing opportunity that we have available for artists. You can see some of the artists are showcased here. These are just some samples of the ads that we run, but basically we have artist marketing packages available. So we do general marketing. We do basic, we will share posts and share Instagrams and share Facebook posts and share content as it becomes available. But one other opportunity to get a little bit additional exposure is to sign up for our marketing packages. And we have 2 available packages if you're interested. So package 1, basically you send us 1 image. It's a square image that we use. It's $100, but it includes Instagram stories. So 2 Instagram stories tagged so that you can share. You're included in at least one of our email blasts, if not multiple email blasts. You're part of our Instagram carousel that includes up to 8 other artists, as well as shows our promotional images, our general images for the event. And you're part of the paid Facebook and Instagram ad campaign. So we run just general Instagram posts and stuff, but we actually have a paid ad campaign on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Hey, Angela, I have a question in the chat.
Okay.
So it's Richard asking if there'll be improved signage banners surrounding the shops of Don Mills so that cars, pedestrians are informed of the show in the week leading up to the event.
Yeah, so there's some limitations because it's all private property. And there's basically CF Shops at Don Mills is a pretty large corporation. So they basically have a lot of rules around signage. So we do put tented signs, like some of our yard signs we put up there, but we are limited with on-site signage at the event. We've done posters there before, but every year is a little bit different, and CF Shops at Don Mills has a lot of regulations about it. They're trying to get us into, they have some relationships with some of the condos, so I think we're going to get into the condos this year. Our postcards are being sent over and available to them, and they send newsletters to those condos, and our communication materials going out to the condos. In regards to drive-by activity, even like we do work with some of the local retailers, as well as some of the retailers are all given information about us and offered postcards in their shops. With COVID, we pulled back a little bit on that, just because less touch points and not clutter on counters, but now retailers are a little bit more open to that. We distribute at the local library that's across the street, but even the areas that are around Shops at Don Mills, it's pretty much all private property. So it's really hard to get large signage there. So I just want to continue on the marketing packages for a minute, and then we're going to continue with some of the other marketing that we're doing. So marketing package 2 is basically everything that's in package number 1. It's $275 an artist, but it also you are included in the digital ad, like our basically paid ad campaign with the Globe and Mail, as well as BlogTO. So this detail is all in the artist handbook, so I won't elaborate too much. You send us 2 images. You're also on our headers on our website, as well as profiled in other ways. One being an Instagram live interview. If you'd like, we do an Instagram live interview, and that's shared across our social media properties, as well as on our YouTube channel. Another opportunity that artists have, if they'd like to participate, is our I Gave Art program. So I would strongly ask you to consider that. And it really helps promote the ArtWalk pre-event, but it also drives on-site traffic and our ongoing communication. So it builds our communications network to with our newsletter. So it builds our ongoing contact list. So people sign up and they enter a draw to potentially win a piece of art. And how it works is that we randomly pull winners. So people donate art, can be anything from a print to a small piece of art. It's showcased in our booth and at the ArtWalk. And we communicate, it stays up on our website for a year. We communicate that in some of our newsletters as well as our marketing, and you have an I Gave Art sign in your booth, so you're just kind of highlighted in the show. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about that, it's all in the handbook again, but really it's a great opportunity for visitors to see your work and show that you're part of the show. Talking about newsletters, just really wanted to, we really believe your email list is gold, and that's why we work really hard to build our email list. But we really want you to do that as well. And we encourage you to communicate a number of times prior to the event, but also during the event and after the post event. So you'll see our newsletter campaign has started. We've already been promoting the event, but it'll get heavier as we get closer to the event. A lot of our heavy campaign starts right after the long weekend in September. And so you'll see more and more promotion about the ArtWalk. But there's just a lot of different ideas you can do, kind of what's happening. You can highlight your work. You can, I would really suggest you a link to the full event profile, which would be our artwalkinthesquare.ca website. This says tent tour, but that's sort of a typo. It's we're not doing a tent tour this year, but really just maybe communicate a little bit about what you're doing, what's different, what you're profiling at the event. So really, your newsletter is a really important marketing campaign for yourself, as well as it's really important for the Artist Network. We have provided some graphics. So we've got some Instagram graphics. There's more coming. You can see Win My Art. That has to do with the I Gave Art. So I'm going to put that in the artist handbook. I just got that from our artist just before this orientation. So I just popped that in here, but we're working on more and more creative, and you'll see some of that populated. I will let you know through the Eventney email communications when new stuff is posted on the artist handbook. But if ever you're in doubt, just log into there and you'll find all our content there. Please do make sure you tag us on your posts. It makes it much easier for us to share your stories. If you tag us, it's really hard for us to go and search for you. So please make sure you tag us, hashtag ArtWalk Square, or hashtag I Gave Art. And where possible, we'll repost your stories and tags. Make sure you follow all of our channels. So often, like even the Riverdale channel, we'll keep live throughout the year, and we'll post ArtWalk in the Square content on there, and vice versa. We also have an Artist Network Instagram's platform, as well as a Leslie Grove Gallery platform. So I would say make sure that you're following us and tagging us on all our channels. So I can just really encourage you to post often. I don't know, Jamie, if you want to talk a little bit about social at all. Do you feel comfortable doing that, or you want me to keep going? All right, I'll just keep talking. So Instagram, I just really encourage you to post often. I mean, I'm often not the best person with this because I post a lot and then I'm quiet for a little bit, and then I post a lot, but really consistency is key with Instagram. We definitely try to do that with the Artist Network accounts. And it's really about storytelling and making sure you have a live story all the time. Don't use more than 30 hashtags on your post. And again, just include ArtWalk Square in your post. Really kind of mix up the content. I think what a lot of people say is managing your top 9 Instagram content. So that top 9, so that refers to these 9 little boxes that are the top of the 9 boxes. Make sure that some of them are profiling you, profiling the show, profiling your art. Kind of make sure that the top 9 look interesting and different, because that's really where you're going to get the most engagement. Use reels. There's a lot of algorithms out there that really showcase that reels do really, really well. And one of the things that has come out lately in a lot of conversations is that I think the algorithms really help you if people watch your entire reel. And so what I've been trying to do, and what a lot of artists are trying to do, is keep the reels super short, because if you watch a reel right to the end, I think it actually helps your account. So it helps them showcase and promote you more, because it's showing that somebody's watching your reel right to the end versus these really long reels. So I've just started to actually make mine much shorter. So some people are doing like 15-second reels. I think that's sort of like a new focus lately. So share, engage, repost other artists, engage in other content, engage in our content. And when I say engage, it's like 5 words or more. So when you say to something like looks great to somebody, it doesn't help them as much as saying looks great, I love the blue in your piece. If you do 5 words or more in an Instagram post or comments, it actually helps the algorithms for that platform as well. Link to your Facebook, make sure your Instagram's linked to your Facebook so your posts show up in both platforms, and maybe go live, do some Instagram lives, go get interactive with your audience, and continue to do that during the show. We do have Facebook graphic coming. This is an old one, so that'll be up on the artist handbook when it's ready, and we'll do a customizable Facebook event as well. Connect with us on Facebook. Make sure that you share the Facebook event. Yeah, so Riverdale Art Walk, as well as Art Walk in the Square. We have a lot of images posted there. So now we're going to delve into logistics. I don't know if Yep.
Should I do the chat now?
Yeah, if there's any questions about anything that we've covered or other things, we're going to move into logistics. So yeah, interrupt me anytime.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of talking to a blank screen here, so I can't see anybody.
Dave's Corlette said the 2 entry points to the Moccasin Trail may be good spots for lawn signs a week out from the event.
Yeah, that's great.
Irina asked, are there statistics from previous years that show that participating in marketing campaigns correlates greater sales?
It's really, really hard to correlate stats to a specific campaign. Like it's really, really, like last year we invested a lot in marketing, and I think it's really difficult to know which marketing channel is working because we don't have paid ticketing, right? Like these, so we don't have history of visitors. All we have is numbers of visitors. Like we have stats in regards to if our numbers are increasing from one year to another, and we have continually increased our visitors at our site at this show. So it's definitely, the show is growing. The reality is it's really hard to pin to one specific marketing tactic. I don't know if I'm answering the question, Barb.
Okay. And then another question, do those who donate art get access to the email contact list?
No. Like like our email contact list? No.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, there's all privacy around that, and we don't do that. We don't give out the entire email list to everybody who gave art. And like, really, we don't want our guests, our clients, or people coming in there being spammed by like 80 artists.
And Gina asked if we send you previously created reels and posts, the most engaged with through Instagram DMs, will you be able to share those on your account?
So if it's related to, I don't know about sending us a reel and then us posting that reel. It's more about tagging us in content. So the way that our marketing team works is we have paid marketing campaigns that will promote people who have paid for the marketing packages, but we have just basically organic posting. So if you're posting and you tag us, so if you're going to repost a reel or something that you did previously and it's relative to like your artwork and what you're doing, yes, we could repost that or share that out, and we will try to do that. Imagine though, if we have 40 posts in one day, we can't do 40 posts that day, so it's organic. So it's kind of like, that's why I say tag us on our different channels, because we are managing healthy accounts. So we had our Instagram account hacked a year ago, so we're building our Instagram account back up, and we're really careful about managing a healthy account. So our marketers are careful about how much they post and what they post. So post often, tag us often, and we should get you covered at some point.
Okay, and do we have a number of visitors from last year?
I don't have numbers. I have percentage of increases. I
Right,
have general numbers. And so it gets measured of how many unique cell phones run through town square.
mm,
Yeah.
okay, and how many paintings fit in one tent? We'll probably get to that.
How,
Uh,
what? Sorry, the
How
last
many
question.
paintings fit in a tent? But we'll be talking about that
Yeah, we'll
next.
talk a little bit about booths and setup shortly.
Yeah.
I think, so we're going to talk about logistics now, which is really like load in and load out and kind of the setup of the park. And then we'll get into like individual booths and stuff like that, if that makes
Okay.
sense. Okay.
We're caught up.
Okay.
Corinne made a comment, but I think everybody sees it, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Except for me, I don't see it. So
Oh.
for those who don't know, Shops at Don Mills is an outdoor mall, basically. So it's a really cool space. It's one of the first big outdoor malls in Canada. And it's got a lot of large land space. There's a lot of really great dining and kind of upscale shops there. There's also, they're continuing to build more units up and around the area. So the residential units are increasing, condos are increasing in that area. So this is the basic map of the space. So I don't know if you can see my arrow. Can you see my arrow on the screen here? No, my cursor. Okay. Okay, so facing north is not up on just right now. Facing north is towards the parkade. If you can see the word parkade here. And block J, that is facing north. So I just put it on the slide this way because I could share, it could become bigger. So really, this is town square. So all the shops is like this outdoor kind of mall center, and it centers around this green space, which is called town square. And there's all seating and stuff in there. And the booths are going to kind of wrap around that town square. They're going to be along Aggie Hog Garden and Carl Fraser Road. For those of you who have been in our show in the past, the layout's a little bit different in that all the booths, we're going to have one row in Aggie Hog Gardens. They're going to face towards Town Square. And then Carl Fraser, there's going to be booths not on this row here facing the retail. They're all going to face to the center of the street. So I think that's a better layout. But one of the biggest changes that Cadillac Fairview has done on this property in the last year is they have built out a lot more patios. So if you see anything orange here, it's basically patios, and also a lot more seating areas. So there's seating areas in Town Square. There's seating areas at the end of Aggie Hog Gardens here on the west side of that street there. There's seating down here on Carl Fraser Road, and they've got these, they actually put turf in certain spots right here on Carl Fraser Road. They put green turf in certain areas, and they've got these gazebo type things with loungers under them. But all the reddish pinkish areas, it's all patio. And there's a big container actually I wasn't there when I was on site a couple of weeks ago, but there's a container coming that's going to be serving coffee there as well, and that's on Aggie Hog Gardens. So Aggie Hog has way more patio space than it has in the past. I don't know if there's any other questions about that, but I'll move along. So the Artist Network booth is the place to come on site for questions or any information that you need. You'll find us with our pink flags, and there's Barb. She'll be smiling, and she'll be hopefully helpful in answering any questions you have. The general schedule for load in and load out. Friday, September 22nd, 11 o'clock, load in starts. I just want to preference this with AER rentals. If you have a rental, it might not be 100% ready at 11 o'clock. I think 11:30. So please just be patient if you have rentals. Depending on how many rentals we have in, we can only get AER on site at 7 o'clock now. So they only have so many hours to set up the rental. So depending on the rentals, the people who have rentals might have a little bit later load-in schedule than the people who don't have rentals. So I'm just going to preference that. If people have questions, they can reach out to me. But the general load-in schedule is your load-in time will be between 11 a.m. and 12:15 p.m. The overnight storage will be open at 11 o'clock. 1:30 to 3 p.m. You'll be allowed to check into the Artist Network booth, which gives you your artist package with your name tag, your booth sign, and anything else that you might need. You can pick it up there. You can drop off your I Gave Art donations, but we ask you to please not drop off or check in before that, because we're going to be focused on getting all the artists into the area and hopefully set up first. The Art Walk in the Square opens on Friday, 3 to 8 p.m. And then overnight storage is open throughout the day, but will be open from 8 to about 9:15 for you to put your items back into overnight storage area at the end of the day. And we'll talk a little bit more about load in and load out, but this is just a general schedule. Then on Saturday, 8:30, we open up again. The show starts at 10 and runs to 7 o'clock. So hopefully that gives you enough time to set up. If you have a problem with that, please reach out to me. I'll probably be on site a little bit earlier, but we won't really have somebody stationed there, but just let me know if you don't have enough time to set up. Then it'll be open again to put stuff in from 7 to 8 p.m. But again, open up throughout the day if you need to put materials into the space. Sunday, we everything starts an hour later, and the show closes at 5 o'clock. And teardown begins at 5 o'clock. And we ask you not to tear down or start packing up your booth until showtime, so 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock on Saturday, 5 o'clock on Sunday, and 8 p.m. on Friday. We ask you not to start packing up until we hit that time. So load in and load out is different this year. So for those who have participated in the past, it's important for you to pay attention a little bit, specifically to load out. Load in is pretty great. You're able to kind of drive in. If your booth is on Carl Fraser, you'll be able to drive in along Paps. So a little bit different direction. In the past, we've gone north, and now we're going to go south. So you're going to come on Paps Lane. You're going to go south on Carl Fraser Boulevard. You're going to drop off your material, and the flow of the traffic then goes along to Clock Tower Road and then back up to the parking here. So this is one loading zone. If you're on Carl Fraser Boulevard, you're going to be able to drop off at your booth. Town Square, and if you're in Town Square and you're on Aggie Hog Gardens, you're going to load in loading zone 3, which is Aggie Hog Gardens here, or loading zone 1, which is behind the right by the parkade. It's basically a parking access road to go to the parkade, and there'll be you can station along the street here, and you can cart to your booth here, and there's going to be some spots here that you can pull into Aggie Hog Garden, where on the map before that you saw some seating areas. We're going to push the seating areas to the side, and we'll be able to bring some vehicles in there, and you can unload there. Just for those who don't know, the Artist Network booth is going to be here on the corner of Carl Fraser Boulevard and Aggie Hog Gardens. The overnight storage is over here, so it's on Carl Fraser Boulevard. It's in a empty retail space here. If you have oversized vehicles parking, we ask you to park over here by the arena, so not in the general parking area of the mall, but a little bit further away here by the arena, and then you'll just walk over to the venue site. And otherwise, we're asking you to park on the 3rd and 4th level of the parkade.
Someone asked about if we're going to have carts this year.
So we have rental carts, but we don't have carts that are just generally available for everybody. There's just not enough carts. So I'll get to that shortly, but some of the important notes on load-in is there's no volunteers on site till 11 o'clock on the first day to watch materials and editing loading zone. So if you show up on site early, I don't have a problem with that, but you're going to be carting from your car, parked somewhere in a appropriate parking spot. So there won't be anybody to watch any items for you. No vehicle access on Aggie Hall Gardens, no through vehicle. So you cannot drive through Aggie Hall Gardens. You won't be able to drive all the way through. You're going to have to just pull in here and then pull back out and park. Sorry, pull in here and then pull in and park. For sure, absolutely no parking on Clock Tower Road. You'll be towed. They're really on top of that on site. So I don't know about parking tickets, but they'll call and they'll get you towed. There's restaurants there that get really irritated in the retail locations when people are parked and they're other vehicles and visitors to the grounds can't get around, so they will tow you. We're asking you to be hyper vigilant when driving and unloading because they're active streets. There's a lot of people walking around, so I ask you to really take extreme caution when you're loading in and loading out. And very new, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a little bit more time for you to unload at the end of the event, but there's no vehicle access in the event space at all during loadout on the Sunday. So you will be carting to vehicles or carting to that access road. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, but I'll just show you on the map here. On loadout, you won't be able to pull in here, and you will not be able to drive down Carl Fraser Road. So that's new this year. You won't be able to drive down there. It's really important to know that you're going to have to find a parking spot. So I would recommend actually on the Sunday afternoon to park in a area where you'll be able to maybe cart your vehicle. So look for spots that you can bring your vehicle down. But you can actually load out here along this parking access road. So we have that available for loadout, and there is a few other options that I'll get into shortly. But I just want to show you this parking lane here. Once you pack up your booth, if you're all your items are packed up and they're over here in this area, you can bring a vehicle in and load up your vehicle. But there's no vehicles on Carl Fraser, and there's no vehicles here. They've had some problems on the property, and they're being pretty strict about that. So no, please do not exit your vehicle when you're loading in unless you're directed by staff and volunteers to do that. Try to be patient, follow any traffic marshal's directions. There's going to be more security on site than there has been before. So please pay attention to security guards and our volunteers and our staff. We talked about parking. So the process really is the staff and volunteers will monitor your art after you unload your vehicle and you bring your vehicle away. You're going to return and move your stuff from that loading zone into your booth area. And I'll just get into a bit more detail here. There's probably lots of questions, Barb, but for those who are renting, AR will be delivering all rentals early Friday morning, starting at 7 o'clock, and pending any weather delays or any unexpected issues with the load up, with the setup, we're hoping that the rentals will be in place from 11 to 12 a.m. within that time frame. So please be patient. It's going to take you a while to unload your art anyway. So if they're putting up a grid or dropping off some grids that aren't there yet, just try to be patient. They'll try to get to you as soon as possible. Tents and fencing, if you've ordered them, they'll be set up for you. But grids, tables, chairs, weights, they aren't set up for you. They don't know where you want to, like which way you want your grids hung or anything like that. That's for you. That's your responsibility. So make sure you have things to hang that up with, or things that you need. If you've rented a tent, it comes with weights. You can also just rent weights on their own. Those items will be just left in your booth area. Please understand that they're going to try to follow an efficient loading plan and try not to disrupt their activity. If you have any issues, please reach out to a staff member, me or Barb or someone else on site, like in a volunteer capacity, and they can find us that we can help you if you're having issues. But the general help that AER staff has, they're not all going to be able to help you. We know who are the leaders on their team, and we'll be able to try to help you if you're having any challenges or issues on site. The side or front panel walls, just so you know, if they're not in your booth when you get there, they're the last thing to get delivered. So they kind of fly all over the place. So they might set up all the booths and then they'll come in and they'll deliver those panels for your booth. So if you have any last minute issues or challenges, there will be AER on site on Friday during load-in to manage questions or any last-minute concerns, or sometimes last-minute orders. If people didn't have something, they might have something there for you. They usually have a few extra tents. They usually have a few extra grids. So I always say expect the worst and hope for the best. So expect delays, please be patient. Everybody, if you're anxious, I know that if you're new to the show, you might be anxious and really a little bit stressed, and we understand that, but it could be your friend artist who's beside you could be in the exact same position. And really, we want to be respectful to everybody and understand that everybody's trying to load in, and we'll try to do our best to help you. But just a few reminders, there's no volunteers on site till 11 a.m. So if you need somebody and if you need help, the volunteers are there to watch materials. They're not there to cart your materials, lift your materials, hang your booth, right? They're not there to do that. If you need help doing that, we ask you to please bring somebody with you. you will get a schedule of your load, a specific load-in time and a loading zone. Once the booth numbers are assigned, you'll get a load-in schedule as well. So within that time frame, 11 o'clock to 12:15, you'll have a 15-minute window. We ask you to please be on site at that time as much as possible. If you're early, the volunteers or the traffic marshals might ask you to do another loop or to just park if you're like 20 minutes early and then come back. So just please try your best to be patient and to follow along. Traffic flow. So just again, look at that map. I think we went through the traffic flow. Oops. So you can just remind yourself there. And just for those who've been in the thing before, like it is a different traffic flow than we've had in the past. I think we kind of talked about most of this. So the process really is to bring your vehicle there. Traffic marshal will approach your vehicle and they'll provide direction. Pull in here, just give me 5 minutes. This one car is just almost unloaded. They're going to move out and then you can drive through. So just pay attention. They're doing the best they can to get as many people through as possible. When I do the load in schedule, I basically load it in the process of how the booths are set, so that the furthest booth gets their earlier load-in schedule, and so on and so on and so on, so that the first booth isn't blocking everybody else, the traffic coming through. So we try to do it in a systematic, organized way. But again, things happen. So please be patient. We ask you to take about 15 minutes, if possible, to unload your vehicle. So your goal is to really get the stuff out of your vehicle onto the curbside, to your booth area, depending on if you're on Carl Fraser or on the curbside on Aggie-Hog Gardens or on that parking laneway. And then you're going to move your vehicle. You're going to get back in your vehicle and you're going to move it. At no time are you going to leave your vehicle unattended. So you're with your vehicle the entire time if your vehicle's in a loading zone. So that means that you're not going to take the material from your car and then move it into your booth area unless you're on Carl Fraser, obviously. But you're not going to walk from the parking area all the way over to your booth area on Town Square and then back and forth and back and forth. It will take a long time to get all the cars in. You're going to unload. The volunteers are going to watch your items. You're going to go pack your car, park your car, come back, and then move your stuff from the loading zone to your booth area.
How big are the rental carts?
So the rental carts are, I have a picture. They're, I think, the size of 2 weights. So if a weight's 2 by 2, maybe like 24 inches by 24 inches, it might be 24 by 48. Maybe that's a little bit too big. Maybe it's 24 by 30. It's basically 2 weights fit into on top of a rental cart. Because that was the base of the rental carts last year. So I have a picture coming up. So if you have a rental cart, they're going to be available in the overnight storage area, because we don't know, they're not going to be in your booth. They're not going to be in the loading zones. We tried that before and they got moved around all over the place. And some people are loading in from cars parked in the parkade. They don't even use the load in process. They just move the material from the car, and that's fine too. But so they'll be in the overnight storage area. So you're going to unload your vehicle. If you have a cart, then you're going to go to the overnight storage area, get your cart, put your stuff on your cart and move it to your booth. Those carts are yours for the weekend if you've rented a cart. So you can put your stuff on them and then move them into the overnight storage area overnight. So staff and volunteers, just a reminder, they're not there to assist you with unloading or moving your materials. They're there to watch your stuff and make sure things are safe and to direct traffic. There's no parking at any time. I think I talked about that. No leaving vehicles unattended. So you're going to park on the 3rd and 4th levels. Talked about that. You're going to return and set up, and then your rental carts are available, as I just indicated. I think I covered that off, Barb.
Okay.
If there's any more questions on that, because now we're getting into load in on other days.
I'm just having a quick look. I think we're okay.
Okay.
I've got a question on the load in at the top of Aggie-Hog.
Yeah.
Before, we used to be able to stop in the street, not just drive down Aggie-Hog.
Right.
And
Like
unload
stop
up.
here.
Just south of it. Is that still okay?
So you cannot stop here. You can't
No,
stop.
not there. Not there.
And even here, I know that last year some artists stopped here. So I kind of sometimes turn a blind eye to that, but we're not supposed to. We're supposed to keep traffic moving. So you're supposed to pull in. So
Okay.
the problem is sometimes we just have too many artists up showing up at the exact same time. And some people are very, like, they're maybe not impatient. We ask you to stay in your vehicle, and then we'll get somebody out here, and then you'll be able to come in here and put your stuff here. That's the safest way to do it. Shops at Don Mills had some challenges. I don't even know if it's this property or other properties, but they've had some problems. There's going to be way more security. There's going to be a security guard here, stationed here. There's a security guard station on Clock Tower Road. There's going to be a security station, guard station here, and there's a security guard station here. So they're going to ensure that we're following the rules. They're probably going to walk over to your car and say, you can't unload there. So all I can say is try to be patient. And if it takes a little bit longer to load in, we have quite a bit of time to load in. The show doesn't start till 3 o'clock. Right? It's a lot of stuff happening in 4 hours. You can always park here. If you can find a parking spot here and just cart in and take your time, you can park in these parking spots here, and you can cart in as well. And there are parking spots along the road here. There's parking spots along here. If there happens to be an empty parking spot, I have no problem with you parking in there, filling up your cart, walking across and coming in here. There's parking spots all along here. I don't think there's any patios on this street. There's parking spots along here. So so that is another option for load in at any time and load out. I do think we have to be patient. I don't know about cars here. I don't usually get angry with people, but there's heavier security this year, Jamie.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. I'll just say, I didn't tell them they could do that. I'll go talk to them. I'll usually just help you finish off or like do what we need to do. But
yeah, no, it's just that cars moving in and moving out at Aggie Hog at that corner, it gets pretty congested.
Yeah, it can be. And there's going to be so there's booths aren't being set up there. Usually our booths go almost right up to like if I go back to this map here, usually our booths almost go right up to here where there's this water fountain feature here. Our booths are going to stop here. Yeah. So there's going to be tables and chairs here, and I'm hoping they're easy to move, and we're going to pull them up over here, and then this will be open.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that we actually can fit more vehicles there than we have in the past.
Okay, cool.
I just haven't seen that furniture yet. So, okay, I'm going to move along here. So load in Friday, we talked about that. Load out Friday and Saturday. So there's no schedule. Load in begins at show closing. I think I've said that. We really recommend, strongly recommend removing anything of value out of your booth. There's a lot of condos there. There's a lot of people that come and spend time in the evening within that event space and within town square. So anything left in your booth at the end of the day is at your own risk. There is security, but they can't be everywhere at all times. So if you leave something in your booth, that's at your own risk. We have the overnight space, and we encourage you to put your stuff there. So no, I think I've said this many times now, no vehicle loadout or through traffic on the event site Friday or Saturday evening. You have the option of carting items to your vehicle, right? But there's no vehicles allowed on site, but you always have that option. We have volunteers as available monitoring the event space. So they're going to be stationed throughout the area. They're going to watch your stuff as you go back and forth and cart things to the overnight storage. So if you can't fit it all in one load, don't stress out. Hopefully volunteers there. If for some reason there's not volunteers in your area, we ask you to please work with your neighbors. Artists are always pretty helpful. You help your neighbor, they'll help you. You just take turns moving your stuff to storage. If you have a problem, my phone number is here. You can text me or reach out or have somebody run over to the Artist Network booth, and we'll try to get somebody there to help you as quickly as we can.
Ange, someone's asking, is there someone to watch their stuff at the booth location? At their booth location.
When they're carting stuff to the overnight storage?
Yeah.
Yes. So they're going to be stationed throughout the area. They're not going to be in one booth. They're probably going to be rows, right? And they're going to be watching an area.
Okay.
I think that answers the question. Hopefully. Okay. Load in Saturday and Sunday. So there's no schedule. The overnight storage opens and you move your stuff and cart your stuff to your booth. And again, we'll have volunteers available to basically in the overnight storage area, but also throughout the event space as people go back and forth to their booths. It opens an hour and a half before show opens each day. If you have a problem with that, let me know. Final artist loadout Sunday. So this is going to be our challenge this year. And all I can say is it's going to take longer than it has in the past. So be patient. I know everybody's going to be tired, but take your time. There's no schedule. Volunteers will be available to watch materials again and throughout the event space and loading zone 1. So loading zone 1, just to repeat one more time, I'm going to go back to this map so everybody knows, it's basically this space here by the parkade behind these retail locations here. So you can pull up your vehicle in here if you have a vehicle pass. So I'm just going to talk about that because we obviously, there's spots for 8 or 10 vehicles. We definitely do not have, if all the artists come down at one time, we don't have a spot for you to load out, right? So the process will be, you're going to pack up your booth area. You're going to move your items to that loading zone, like to the area to curbside there. And then when your booth area is clean, you're going to get a parking pass. So the volunteers will have those. And if you have a parking pass, you can bring your vehicle into that loading zone 1. I think we've had those parking passes before, so some people are familiar with that. We're just going to ask you to make sure that your booth, when you're all done, is your booth area is cleaned up as best as possible. So please don't leave any litter, recycling materials, zip ties. It's your responsibility to clean that up. We also ask you to, we mark the booth. Sorry, what? Is there a question?
No.
Oh,
Or I think someone's maybe asking. Someone
there-
asking a question?
Question from someone?
No.
Okay. If you're experiencing challenges, again, you have my cell phone, you can text me or phone me, but you work with your neighbors if needed for additional help. We'll try to get to you as soon as we can. It's going to be a lot of people loading out at the same time. We ask you just to be patient. You're going to be carting, the most people are going to be carting to their booth. So, but we have some options. I'm just going to put a reminder here to make sure your booth area is clean when you're all done and you're leaving the site, but also please don't just dump stuff outside the garbage containers. If the garbage containers are full, we'll get somebody there to empty the garbage containers, but just don't dump your stuff. It's going to fly all over the place. And who has to pick that up? We have to pick that up. So please clean up your booth space. We also ask you, we mark the booth spaces with this gaff tape. It's pretty easy to pick off, but imagine us at the end of the night having to do it for like 80 to 90 booths. It's a lot of work on all the corners. So we ask you if you can please pull that up as well when you leave your site. So there is a new safety protocol, and that is that no vehicles will be allowed on the event space on loadout, which we talked about a few times. And there's no loading zones except for zone 1. And the options are, so we talked about loading zone 1 quite a bit already. So I think we've got that. Move your art materials to the loading zone, check out, get a pass, a parking pass. You're going to move your vehicle into that loading zone. You're going to load your vehicle up, and just don't park your vehicle in that loading zone area. You'll get towed if you're not there, if you're not with your vehicle. And it's also very disrespectful to other artists. We've had that in the past where people pull up their vehicle. We don't know whose vehicle it is, but we will flag you. I'll have somebody watching whose vehicle that is. You'll be flagged for participation in our shows in the future. It's very disrespectful to other artists who are circling and circling, waiting for a spot. Second option is to cart items from your booth to your parked vehicle on property, wherever that vehicle is, to cart your items using your cart or a rental cart. And then the third option is use the overnight storage area, and then the back loading bay of the overnight storage area. So you can decide to leave your stuff overnight, Sunday night in the overnight storage area, and come back to property and pick it up on Monday. So Sunday night, you would move your art and materials to the overnight storage area. I'd suggest towards the back of that space, because at the back of the space, you'll see a rear door, and that door opens up to a loading bay, and you can open up that loading bay and basically load up your car very easily the next day. So if you want to do that optional pickup day, you would email me and let me know that's what you want to do. And then I will coordinate that with security. You would give me an estimated time when you are hoping to be able to pick up your work, and I'll have a list with security, and the security will come. You'll arrive on site on the Monday around the time that you've asked for. There's a security window. I'm going to show you where that is. I'm going to go back to the map in a second. You're going to knock on that window. Security is going to come out. There's also a phone number for security. It's on the window as well. So if you don't have it from here or from the artist handbook, you'll see it on the window. You can just text them or phone them, and they'll come over And then you're going to drive to the loading bay, and they're going to open up the overnight storage for you, and you'll load up your car. So it seems like a lot to come back to property, but it would be pretty stress-free, I think. So I'm just going to show you where that is on the map. So, yeah.
Oh, someone asked to repeat what action would be flagged for loadout.
Oh, if you're parking here, if you're parking in here and you just park your vehicle and you're going back and forth to your vehicle and you're not with your vehicle, you don't have a vehicle pass. So like, let's say it's the show ends at 5 o'clock and at 4:30 you come out here and you park your vehicle here, or at 4:45 you say, oh, I'm just going to take this spot here. They're not parking spots. They're loading zone. It's a loading zone. So if you bring your vehicle here and it's not attended, you'll get towed. Like, we'll get security and we'll call a tow truck right away, because we want this to be available for artists. If you put your car there and you're going to your booth going back and forth, and that takes you half an hour, or like even 45 minutes, it's disrespectful to other artists waiting for that spot. So we really strongly ask you, please don't do that. Just come here when your art's over here, load up your car and leave, and then the next artist can come in. So that loading zone, I'm just going to show people. So the overnight storage is here, and the loading. So you would bring your stuff to the third option is to bring your stuff here on Sunday night, and then you come here to Paps Lane. This is a loading bay here, and you just come behind the unit here, and there's a door here, and you just put your stuff in your vehicle.
Someone's asking if you'd be able to pick up the art on Tuesday instead of Monday.
Probably, yeah, I can probably get that. Like, we can probably do that.
Good.
So it's just an option. I know for some people, like, they're living further away and it doesn't make sense at all, but for some people it might make sense. So that's just one of the options. So this year we'll see how this works. And hopefully we don't get too stressed out and we're patient and we're okay with it all. Overnight storage. I think I finished here in regards to security. If people have more questions, you can reach out to me. Again, overnight storage, I think I've showed you a few times now on the map. The hours, half an hour and a half before show opening and on show closing, and throughout the event as needed. So you're allowed to go in there and store your stuff. So extra art, packing material, that sort of stuff. We ask at the event, after the event, that you clean up any of your material. So please don't leave packaging or extra material or garbage in there. So please make sure that you clean up after yourself, your area. It is an unfinished space. So for those who were at the ArtWalk and used the space last year, it's exact same space. So it's unfinished in that there's no air conditioning and it's not a finished floor. It's not a really beautiful retail space, but it's huge. So it's a big space. So there's lots of room to put your stuff. But there's no air conditioning. I don't think we had any problems with anybody's work in that space last year. So I think it worked really well. The doors were wide and open, and it was very easy for us. The Artist Network booth is close. If you need access to get in there, just come over to the Artist Network booth. We'll have a key there, and we can open up and get, like, if you need packing material or you want to switch up your art or do anything like that, we're happy to help you access that space. There's no formal assigned spaces except for the Artist Network. We'll probably put a table there with some chairs so our volunteers can kind of use that almost as a headquarter, especially if it's really, really hot out. So we just ask you to be respectful of the Artist Network space and not put your stuff in our space. So we'll have like all the I Gave art there. So we're just asking you not to put your stuff there. Just be mindful of leaning up on other people's artwork. I think that's just all pretty self-explanatory, and tidy up when you're done. Parking, we talked about parking. Food and beverage, there's tons of really great restaurants on site. Some of them you can order ahead of time. But make sure you take lots of water, consider rehydration tablets, they're awesome. Volunteers. So our volunteer call went out quite a while ago. And so the volunteers are signing up and coming in. If you know somebody, or if you're working with a school or a school board and you have access to students, or even anybody in your family or people that you know who might want to volunteer, please let us know. Please share our volunteer call with them. I'll send it through the Eventany messaging as well, so that you can share that. But the link is basically, there's a volunteer tab on ArtWalk in the Square website. So there's a volunteer tab there. It goes to a form with all the different shifts they can sign up for. It's a lot of fun. We want the event to be enjoyable and engaging for our volunteers. They're there to give artist relief, to engage with visitors and provide information and direction. They can give you artist relief if you need to use a washroom or quickly go get something to eat. We ask you to kind of don't stay out of your booth longer than 15 minutes. If there's a volunteer there, volunteers after that amount of time, they'll leave your booth. If they like, they'll just move on to the next person, unless there's lots of volunteers at that time. You can talk to them and let them know what your needs are. I think one thing I forgot to show is where the washrooms are, but there's lots of washrooms on site. Maybe I should just go back to that map for the people who. So the washrooms are, there's a washroom here by this fountain. There's a washroom here on Sampson Hughes down in here. There's a washroom here on Maggie Muse, I think it's called, right here. So there's lots of washrooms on site. They're very clean and they're pretty accessible for everybody. Our sponsors, Sea of Shops at Don Mills, they really help us out by letting us do this event there. And AER Rentals, they keep our rental costs down. So I think that's it for logistics, other than like rocking your booth and like some suggestions and recommendations, tips and tricks. Are there any other questions, Barb?
Yeah, we got some questions about your booth and hanging, how
rentals?
to hang art and things like that.
Okay.
Do
So-
we need tools? Yeah.
One thing I would like to encourage people to do is plan for battery powered lighting for your booth for Friday night. So sunset is around 7:15 to 7:25, because I think our show's a little bit later this year, because I think we're the week before last year. So 7:25-ish, I think, is sunset. So that last hour or so of the show, last hour and a half, it gets pretty dim. So I would say plan lighting for your booth. It's definitely going to help you. You can get battery powered lighting even at Home Depot. They have clip-on lights. I actually have a little generator, like a little small generator thing. If you do bring that on site, make sure that the information from that little generator or that little battery pack is on the power cord, like it's still attached to that, because they have come around and looked at that. AER rentals are due September 15th. The form looks like this. It's in the artist handbook. So the rentals, this is what their tent looks like. It's just a basic tent. It is not waterproof. It is water resistant. So it's not 100% waterproof. It's a canvas, it's a canopy tent. It's 10 by 10. These are the freestanding grid fences. So they're 6 feet tall by 10 feet wide. So they do stick out, like if you had 3 of them, they do stick out from the booth. Like it's kind of hard to zip up 100% in the corner. So just saying that. And if you do rent, like some people might do a mix, they might rent one wall and not the other. You have to tell them on the form, like where you want that fence, if you're going to rent a fence wall. These are their chairs, the tables, and the linen if you were to rent it. And then these are the display grids. They're hanging horizontally here, but I would not hang 3 horizontally. I would put them vertically, actually, normally. But anyway, we can talk a little bit about that. But that's the rentals, and they're due. This is the cart. So the cart looks like this. So it's not huge, but it does have a base. It will have a base in it. So it fits 2. If you're used to those square weights that are on the corners, it fits 2 of those in the bottom. So I don't know exactly how big those weights are, but and then you would just stack your stuff on this grid. We're going to put name tags on them. So all I can say is please use the carts if you've pre-ordered them, if you've rented one. Last year we had somebody take someone's cart and they wouldn't, somebody was quite angry because they thought they were carts for everybody, but they're rented carts. So please take them if you've rented them. They'll have your name tag on it. So look for your name tag on your cart. To order them, you need to send, this is artist@artistnetwork.ca, but you don't want to do that. You want to send it to Angela@artistnetwork.ca and just say, I'd like to order a cart. So the cost is $30 and that's payable on site in cash. We use that to pay for our volunteer food and beverage. So we pay for the carts and then we use the fees that we pay out for that. We use that as petty cash on site for the event. So you can just pay us on site. So that's the basic stuff. And now it's about more rocking your booth. So there's more stuff here about Jamie, do you want to talk a little bit about this, planning your booth display and anything like that?
Sorry about last time. I forgot I was on mute.
Oh, okay.
And I forgot this time too.
I just feel like I'm talking a lot, so I think it's nice to talk to like a real expert about booth. So this is sort of about planning your booth and so on. And all
In answer to the one question earlier about how many paintings go in a booth, it depends. I mean, you see Chris is here. He probably has 6 in total. He goes
Right.
around the 3 sides. But if you've got smaller paintings, you can have top and bottom on each side, or so you can get up to 12. What I do myself is I try to put a feature painting against the back wall. And so that's usually a large one. And I don't have a problem bringing like a 4 foot by 6 foot piece or a 3 foot by 5 foot pieces. People will buy those at these shows. So I'll have one across the back and then maybe a vertical piece on the other side of the back wall.
Right.
And then the other stuff is just stuff.
Like mediums and smalls.
Mediums and smalls, or it depends what else I'm bringing. I mean, and I guess a lot of people seem to want to bring a theme. Myself, I bring whatever I think is the best stuff I've got.
Right.
Because it's an outdoor art show. It's not a gallery display. It's not an indoor theme display. You want to put your best foot forward.
Mhm.
And okay, so just getting on to the some of the notes here. Bring chairs, tables, etc. And only one chair is good, that's for sure. But myself, I like to have a director's chair, which is a little bit taller. I'm getting a little bit old and it's getting really tough to get up out of a low chair to greet people near the end of the show. So I find with the director's chair, I'm almost at eye height with them anyways. When people come in, so it's very easy to stand up because you want to present a welcoming environment. And if you don't stand up, maybe you're giving the wrong signals off, because you got to think you're a salesperson now, you're not an artist. Always have signage and locate it somewhere within the booth where people can see it. And not setting up outside or exceeding your allotted area. It's rude to the artist beside you if you're blocking people from viewing their stuff. Always have a guest book. In collecting emails, as Angela already said, is gold. That's really critical. And even if people don't buy now, the fact that they give you an email means that they're interested in you and your work. So you want to maintain contact with them. Ready for any weather and wind. Okay, so these tents typically are really crappy design because water will collect. If there's a rainstorm, it will collect on the roof, and that will cause a leg to collapse if enough water collects. So everybody who's experienced uses pool noodles or PVC pipe to reinforce the corners. And that just puts a little bulge on the top of the roof that allows the water to run off. I'm not sure if you've got a slide of that later on, or
Yeah, there is. We'll have a slide. There's a picture of that they can
Okay.
see. Pool noodles or even hula hoops work as well.
Yep. Okay. Packaging to protect your artwork and sales. And I'm bad at this. Now, in this case, we've got the storage area overnight, but it depends on what you're selling. You might want to have a lot of packaging material in your booth for those immediate sales, just so people don't wait around. You have to figure out how to store that neatly. Under the table, maybe you want a skirt for the table, however it is. And I'm terrible at that. My booth is always a mess, so I'm not the right person.
I thought your booth was so good last weekend, Jamie. You put a big painting in front of the table, so if there's anything underneath it, you didn't see it.
Yeah. Exactly. But until that painting was sold, it was a problem. But bringing enough work to replace sold pieces, again, the big advantage is you've got storage here, so you don't have to keep that within your booth. Always a white tent, always a white tent.
Yeah, and so we always say generally stick to white tent, but this property requires it. So you can't, they really want all white tents. They want the property to look good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And remember, in setting up, there's no timetable. As Angela's been saying, you've got lots of time to do things. no one's going to die if things go wrong. There's always a chance to fix things. So don't let frustration get the better of you. Do you want to go on the next?
Yeah, so here's Kate's little slide, but
Yeah. What you should do is prior to the show, you probably know which pieces you're going to put in the car or the van. It's good to make a map of your booth. Kate does it with her images. Myself, I just do it with a square on an Excel spreadsheet. And then you know what fits and what doesn't fit. Because you've got 10 feet to play with. You don't want to be trying to squeeze 10 foot, 6 inches of paintings in a 10-foot space.
it definitely makes your setup go much quicker. Like this
Yeah.
past week, I didn't have this figured out, and it took me a lot longer to set up my booth.
Yeah. That's why it's easier to bring big pieces.
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
So these are just some different examples. So like this is the fence panels, just to show people how people have hung on them.
Yeah. So myself, I'm not a big fan of the modular fencing because it is only 6 feet high, but
Mhm.
that's just me. I mean,
Yeah, so sometimes people have done like, so on this, some people have done like options where they've done like a chain and the thing, like they might hang one really high, like if they might wire work. But
Yeah.
so that it hangs higher, but
myself,
here-
I do something like Morgan's done here with his grids.
Mhm.
He's got them vertical, but if I've got a big piece going on one of those, I'll just use 2 chains to hang it from, put some D-rings on top of the back of the stretcher. So it hangs straight. Just because I don't want, grids are heavy at the end of the show. I don't like to bring around too many if I don't have to.
So you can see here, Morgan's made his own weights, or
Yeah.
filled with concrete, and then he's got these black grids. These are the rental grids.
And here's an example of the hula hoops or the pool noodles.
Yeah, pool
Rod
noodles
food
there, how he's done his pool noodles like that, and this person's done their pool noodles in each
in
corner.
the corners, yeah.
Trying to see.
Now I don't know if the AER tents are all vinyl roofs now or.
No, they're the same. They're the same.
Okay, okay.
So they
these are
actually have
examples.
white, this is white grids. You can get white grids, but they're not the rentals, but you can find them in different locations. I'm trying to remember. Kate knew the name of that company. I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember. I can find that out if someone's interested, but there is white fencing as well, but it's hard to move around.
Yeah.
And this is just I think Ian must have spray painted that, because I think this is just from Home Depot. I think it's just spray paint.
That's just old fencing.
Yeah.
And I think Anna's got the same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here's the flourish walls, which are awesome. They're the mesh ones.
Yeah, more and more people are doing that.
Mhm.
But
So you have to, so those are in the States. So I have those walls and I bought them in the States. Supposedly there's a Canadian company that's looking into bringing something into like having them in Canada. They are definitely an investment. They're expensive, but they are great for hanging because they're so small mesh. You can just really figure out where to hang your pieces. Some people do in 2 different ways. They might have a mesh wall, but then here you see David has these wood, like they're just wood 2x1, 1x2s, I think, where he just put notches or screws or nails in, and he just zip tied them to the top, and these hung work on there.
yeah, a lot of people do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of different. Like here, Paul does the same thing. His are. I don't think you can see it here, but they're notched. I don't know if you can see way down on the one on the right here. They're little notches, and he's got his paintings wired, and then he just can hook them on whatever notch he wants. They're super light. They fit in his vehicle really easily. This person does the same thing. Quite a few.
Instead of wood grids, wood.
Yeah, you can see it better here with the wood, but they're just notches and they just like slip right on the notches. So instead of having a whole heavy grid, they just use those little, I think those are just 2x2s or 1x1s, I think.
Yeah, they're 1x2s.
1x2s. Here's the same thing. John Visser does the same.
Yeah.
Well, here you can see it here. So they're just little notches. And this person, these are those metal things that you put on your wall to hold shelving up.
Yeah.
Like some people can be pretty inventive on what they use to hold their paintings up.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the chains, like you were saying, Jamie.
Where?
Like all these booths have chains.
Yeah.
Like Carlos here has chains.
Yeah.
They're all changed to from the top of the tent.
Right.
frame.
And I like the chains because they are flexible, they're light. If you're going to use chains, you always need S hooks for any of these arrangements. Make sure the S hooks fit in the chain opening. I've
Yeah.
seen people come with the fat S hooks and they've got a thin, tiny chain and they wonder why the S hook doesn't fit.
Mm.
There's
Here's,
plastic fencing again.
yeah, plastic fencing and just mesh with like little wood things that she made. Like, so people are pretty creative, and then like really the sky's the limit here, what you can do.
The important thing is you stay within the confines of your booth.
So if you do have anybody else, I can't remember if there's anybody here that has sculpture or whatever. If you have like this, the grounds might not be level, so make sure you take stuff to level if needed.
Mhm.
So here's the thing with the D-rings, Jamie. Do you want to talk about that? Why you would D-ring the top of your work?
Yeah. So the D-rings go on the top, for those who paint on canvas, on the top of the top stretcher, the D-rings go on both corners. The reason to hang from the top is the artwork will hang vertical then. If you try to hang from a wire and a D-ring down lower, the painting will want to angle. It will fall towards the front of the tent. So you want to keep your painting vertical because it looks better.
Mhm.
And people don't have a problem buying the painting with that still on it. I mean, they can easily take it off. It's just a little screwdriver needed.
Yeah, I always have a drill in my booth. I just pop them back off
Yeah.
for it when I sell it.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess one thing about just what I think of it, if you do manage to sell a larger piece or pieces, the thing I always say to people is, well, they pay for it. You can go visit the rest of the show, and then I'll wrap it while you're away and come back for it, because that gives you the opportunity to do whatever you need to do.
Mhm. I do the same thing. So this is just to also think about how you're gonna hang up your tags. So your information tags about the piece, your pricing, and so on as well. And I can see some of these use Velcro here, but some of these use little curtain hooks here, or even like name tag clips. So you can use all kinds of things to hold your information. Here's pool
Yeah.
noodles.
Oh, there they are. Yeah. Just on the tag thing again, I use that blue sticky stuff from like Staples.
Yeah.
It's and I attach it to the edge of the canvas because I always use gallery depth canvas. So it's
Right.
got an 1.5 inch space there, so I can hang a tag with a description on the side.
Right.
It doesn't need to hang over into the image.
So lots of good ideas. There's some tips and packing lists, like some tips and helpful things on the artist handbook as well. So you can download some documents there. And then just a few more things, maybe Jamie, about being prepared and making sure some suggestions and tips on site.
Yeah, the hat and sunblock, the phone with a rechargeable or the spare battery, water and snacks, although you got a lot of choice for snacks around the mall. Water, clothing for all weather possibilities. And the other thing about clothing is, depending upon the type of weather, setting up a tent can be a very sweating situation. So you might want to bring a change of shirt so that you're a little bit fresher for the day after you've done your setup. I guess noodles, the hot water, sunscreen. Thing is about it might not seem all that hot, but pavement reflects heat like crazy. So it's going to be hotter on the cement than you think it might be. So another thing to consider. If you, I find that a lot of times I'll get tired during the show. And it also depends on how many people are coming through, what level of contact you're having with people. And I think it's important that you don't just sit in the back corner of your booth if you're frustrated or disappointed or you need a break, whatever. Don't be afraid to walk away from your tent. Nobody's going to steal artwork in the middle of a show. So what I do is I always bring a sign that says something to the effect of, "Thanks for stopping. I'm away for 10 to 15 minutes. Thank you for stopping and appreciating my work. If you'd like to talk to me now, here's my cell phone number, please call. Otherwise, I'll be back in, 15 minutes. And I've actually sold a painting through that sign one time. So
Yeah,
if people
I've had
do,
people
if
call
people
me
read,
up.
if
Yeah, they
people
do
are
read it.
interested, yeah, if people are interested, they will come back to you.
Mhm.
And the important thing is that if you're there, you have to be engaging people. So that's why it's good to walk away if you're tired or if you need a break. Because people very quickly pick up on the fact that, oh, he doesn't care or she doesn't care.
Mhm. Yeah, you have to always stay positive, keep upbeat. And if you're not, you need to kind of get yourself out of that. So what Jamie's suggesting is like ways to do that is maybe just go for a walk around like the block or something, right? Yeah. Or if you just break to get a drink of water or to eat something, right? Sometimes it's better just to step out of your booth.
Yep. And I guess another thing is, do people understand HST? If you sell more than $30,000 of art in a year, in 12-month period, you have to pay HST on those sales.
Right.
So you need to have a number for that. And the government doesn't really care if you didn't know you were going to sell that many. They still want the money for that many.
Mhm.
So if you're going to be close, or if you think you're going to be close, get yourself an HST number. It's pretty simple to get from the government. That's gross sales. I see the
Right.
one chat. So that they don't care if you sold $30,000 and your expenses were $30,001, doesn't matter. They want the sales.
Right.
And I do. Another thing is, I do think people hate HST. They hate to pay for HST, but I think they appreciate. Okay, you might be a more serious artist if you have an HST number.
Mm.
So I think it's also a selling tool.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
you need to be prepared for the visitors coming in your booth, like have your story, but also like
Yeah.
be prepared with your pricing, right? Like know what your pricing is and be prepared to be
Yeah.
able to present that or like to support it, right?
Yeah. You should have a story or something you can say about each piece, because people might like that one. They might want to know the background of that one.
Mhm.
And if you're hesitant about talking about it, or you're nervous about talking about it, you have to practice beforehand. Have your 30-second elevator speech all set for every piece.
Mhm.
And you don't have to launch into what do you want to buy type of thing. I mean, just be there to say hello to people. Are you enjoying the show? This is my work. Did I kind of tell you anything about it? Or and try and lead them into a conversation.
Yeah, or engage on whatever they're talking about. So if they
Right.
say something about a particular piece, you can say, oh, or you can just ask people, oh, what piece do you connect with? Or you can ask questions to help build that conversation inside once they're in your booth or once they're kind of engaged with you, is to kind of have that story about your piece, like Jamie said.
Yeah. I used to be really upset when people wanted to photograph stuff. And then I realized, well, if it's on their phone, it's much better than being on my website and then having to go to my website to see it. The phone's a more immediate thing. Their photos on their phone. It's a more immediate thing for people, and they can email it to their spouse or whatever. So I don't have a problem with people photographing their work, because if they're going to make a cheap print of it, they're going to make a cheap print of it somehow. They just won't ask your permission to take the photograph. So it's one thing that I sort of got beyond. I just thought, okay, I don't care about it.
Yeah, I think most people are okay with, like, I think the people photograph work all the time. There's so much social media out there now.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was very different. You'd wonder why people wanted to photograph your work. But nowadays, I think it's like people are taking pictures constantly. I think it's different if they come in there with a SLR camera.
Yeah. How to handle people who criticize your work. I mean, there really isn't a good way of handling that. I mean, I just don't engage with them. I mean, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in critique in the course of the show, because then if you get into a discussion or an argument or a back and forth, that's just going to turn off anybody else who's walking into your booth.
Yeah, that's right. You want to keep the energy upbeat and positive in your booth. So you want to disengage with that as quickly as you can.
Yeah. And how to respond to people and what are you trying to say through? You might say, I'm just not that deep, or, you keep it light. I mean, unless there is something that a message you really want to convey, don't be afraid to convey it then, because they've opened the door. I tend to joke a lot and I get away with joking a lot because that's just my personality.
Mhm.
Other people can't do that because it just doesn't work. So,
Yes, the thing is just to keep upbeat as possible. And so if you feel like you're having a bad day and you're not selling and people are selling around you, is just to try to stay positive. I know that a lot of sales come post show. And also if you're a new artist, just really want to encourage you that sometimes people need to see you a few times. Like I'm getting that now, like at shows, because I've now done a couple of loops and I'm getting like the show this past weekend. I have clients coming back and saying, oh, I'm so excited to see you, or people following me on Instagram. I follow you now. I'm so happy to meet you in person. And you kind of get your, you kind of build your audience. And the more often that they see you, it's not always just being in one show and then that show is not successful. One show leads to another, leads to another. So people will follow you to different shows as well. And so sometimes it just takes a while before they actually purchase, right? Or maybe they purchase so you're not necessarily having a bad day. Always assume you're having a positive day, right? You don't want to turn off prospective clients like for the future.
Yep, that's very true. I mean, the important thing is to come up with an email address or some knowledge that they're following you on Instagram or things like that. And this is a very tough year for sales. I've noticed that at shows. I mean, it's people are much more cautious about spending their money this year, I feel. Except for the really rich people who they don't even know there's a crisis going on.
I think one thing you also have to learn a little bit about is how to engage from someone in your booth who is talking to you a lot and they're not necessarily a potential client. And even if they are a potential client and there's more potential clients and it's all of a sudden a busy time, I think there's nothing wrong with having a polite out, like saying, oh, excuse me, I just want to welcome these other guests, or excuse me, I just need to go talk to this person. I'll be right back. Right. And you'll find that other artists will do that quite often. You think that they would be more aware of the fact that you're there to sell your work and present your work and to promote yourself as an artist, but sometimes they're not. And I don't think it's spite or anything like that. Sometimes people are just not aware that they're basically manipulating your time and your space, and they don't see other people that want to talk to you. So I think you just have to tell them.
Yeah. And there's a good point down here at the bottom about letting them talk and integrating yourself with them. I'm pretty sure I have lost lots of sales because I've talked for too long on things, or I've talked people out of buying that piece in the hopes that they're going to buy a bigger one, and then they buy nothing. So,
yeah, so you just want to
you have to
let
learn to
them
listen.
connect. Yeah, let them connect.
Yeah.
And be engaging, be attentive. I think don't sit in the back of your booth with your phone, or like don't have your head down on your phone or be at the back of your booth reading a book. I've seen that at shows and I really think it's a mistake.
Yep.
You're there to talk to people and engage with people. So you have to put yourself out there. And then also be prepared with your materials that you're bringing to the show, right, Jamie? Like your business cards, postcards. I think you bring
Business
those.
cards, postcards. I used to bring a bio to the shows as well and put that up. And a lot of these shows, galleries do come to these shows. If your objective is to get into galleries, I mean, there's very often a gallery person walking around on the show grounds. So, I mean, you want to have something for them that's a takeaway.
Yeah, so not everybody's going to read your bio, but some people for sure will. I have some people are pretty quiet and they're not that outwardly engaging either, but they'll stand there and read your entire bio. I've had lots of people do that and then they turn around and they buy a piece. So you do want to have something like that. What I do now is I also have QR codes. I don't know if you do that, Jamie, but like to my Instagram and to my website, and to my bio. So I think that people can kind of like do that, like to your artist statement or your CV.
Yeah, I've gotten kind of lazy about that. I think ever since COVID, to be honest.
So
Have
I
you-
think I got the opposite because of COVID. I did the whole no touch thing a little bit. Like, people can just hold their phone, hold their phone up to, and people ask me and say, "Oh, like, do you have a thing here?" Like at the last weekend, I had it and it didn't fit in the front of my inside my booth well, so I put it on the outside. And I thought, "Oh, that was a mistake." People asked me for it, so I had to go get it for them.
Yeah.
So I think more people have it. But really, 3 things to require to sell your work is attitude, a willingness to engage with people, and to bring your best work, right? Don't second guess what works for
Exactly.
the audience. Just present yourself in the best way that you possibly can.
And attitude is a big thing.
Mhm.
I mean, you can have a certain demeanor when you're in the studio painting or sculpting or whatever, but when you're in your tent, you're a salesperson,
Mhm.
and you need to be comfortable or find ways to get yourself comfortable in meeting people, engaging with people, talking with people.
Yeah,
And
the worst thing is when you have like 2 artists that are talking to each other about how terrible and how poorly they're doing, and how if they're not enjoying themselves and they get each other, we're like it gets down and down and down and down. People walking by hear that. Everybody else hears that, and that energy exudes out of your booth.
Yep,
So I would
it
just
does.
say, if you're feeling like that, go for a walk, right?
Yep, yep, definitely.
So Jamie, do you want to talk about this, about
Yeah.
consistency and pricing, and a little bit about pricing and red dots and stuff?
Yeah, everybody that starts out wonders, how should I price my stuff? And what you got to remember is it's not really important if your pricing is wrong for your first few shows. You're testing the market, but you will get a understanding of where your work fits and where your pricing should fit on your very first show. I think one thing that's really important is you can't overprice your work initially, because you want your work to trend up, not to go up like a zigzag, like a sawtooth pattern where one day it's $1,000 and the next day it's $500 because you didn't sell it. So you have to be comfortable, and you have to be able to defend your pricing. You have to feel confident that you're in the right ballpark there. You have to decide whether you're willing to negotiate on pricing. It's not a recommended thing to do, but sometimes people, it helps guide you where you should be if you're not sure. Having work for every price point. Yeah, myself, I do a better job on larger pieces, so I don't really try to cover every price point anymore. I used to, and I just found it was frustrating because I don't do a very good job on 12 by 12 pieces.
Right.
And I don't sell, I'll sell them now and then, but I didn't sell enough. It was just a source of frustration. So I just don't even try it now.
Mm.
I'm gonna go for the home run, because that's where I feel that's my sweet spot.
Right.
Bring a
So
receipt book.
every artist is probably a little bit different with that, right?
Yeah.
But
Oh,
at
yeah.
these outdoor shows, you'll find that a lot of artists do have different price points. Like they'll have like what Kate always says is her gateway drug, like a small little piece. Like if somebody might buy a small piece now and they'll invest in a larger piece. And especially I think in this market where kind of the middle class, not necessarily the wealthy will probably always have money and buy big art.
Yeah.
But some people who would maybe spend $2,000, they might not, they're taking longer to spend that money, right?
Yeah,
Potentially.
for sure.
I'm not saying for sure, but I'm just saying then maybe have something that they can purchase, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I guess one thing about consistency as well, I should have said was, if you've got a larger piece, it should sell for more than a smaller piece. So if you do a 2 foot by 2 foot canvas and you do a 2 foot by 3 foot canvas, the 2 by 3 foot should really be a higher price point than the 2 by 2.
Mhm.
I mean, it has to make sense to the person that's buying them.
Yeah, a lot of artists will do like a square inch price after you hit a certain size. So I
Yeah.
know, Jamie, you're not doing a lot of small pieces. So small pieces, you kind of price kind of as the sizes go down. Small pieces often take a lot of work. And so, but once you hit a certain size, I don't know exactly what size that is, but once you hit a certain size, like I do all my artwork based on a square inch price. So,
Yeah.
a lot of artists will do that.
Yeah,
And you definitely don't want to price high, like Jamie said, and then go down. You want to consistently build your pricing up. You don't want to go up and down, up and down. The worst thing is a purchaser to see your work sold for one price and then they've bought it for $1,000 and they see it at another show, the same size, and it's for $800.
Yeah, for sure. I've noticed a lot. It started in the pandemic. More and more people want commission work as opposed to what you've already produced.
Right.
And you need to decide how you're going to handle that. Like I do landscapes, so I might have some perfectly good trees in my booth, but they don't want that tree, they want their tree.
Mhm.
In most cases, I price a commission piece at the same price as a piece of that size. So if my 2x3s are 1950, then a commission 2x3 is 1950, unless there's traveling involved. I'm assuming I'm painting from a photograph in their case. And sometimes it appears, well, this person really doesn't know what they want. They're going to be tough to deal with, so you better add a few dollars in to make sure I've covered grief money.
Great money.
And I tell them that. They appreciate that. They understand that. It's because it's a rationale. So that's how I handle commissions anyways. And I do make people pay a percentage up front. The reason being is I've been burned where a person, I was convinced they wanted it and they were convinced they wanted it and there was nothing wrong with it. It was through a gallery. And in the end, they didn't take it, even though they loved the photo of the finished piece. So it was one of those things where I learned my lesson.
Right.
You need some, they need some, was it in the, so they need something in the
Skin of
game.
the game, skin of the game. So
Um,
I don't do that, but I think I'm fairly new. So I think you need to figure that out. Like you need to know like if somebody approaches you about that, you need to have your answer in place, right?
Yeah.
Like I kind of
Red
run a
dot-
no risk commission policy and I've never had an issue.
Yeah.
But again, I've only been doing it for a couple of years. So I think it really depends on you as an artist. And a photographer, printmaker, you need to think about how you're going to answer things like how many are in your series of work that you do. Like I think that people are interested in knowing that, right?
Yeah. There's the HST question. Red dots. A lot of people post the red dots of sold works. A lot of people don't. I mean, it's a personal thing. The thing to think about is, or remember is, as an artist, you're an optimist. Because who else would stand out in a field expecting people to give them $3,000 for something they do? An optimist, right? So I don't worry about the red dot thing, but I know a lot of people do like to post the red dots, and it becomes a bit of a game when you look over and see a string of them down the tent pole, or some big ones there, or whatever. It's a personal choice to me. So I think you jumped by one, didn't you? Or did we?
Did I? Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is about
Yeah.
the tax. I think you're ready to do this one.
Yeah. So I don't know how many people use Square, but taxes, you don't have to include the tax in your posted price if you're using Square, because it'll put it in for you if you tell it what it is.
But you should tell people whether tax is included or not. Like I think you need to.
Yeah. Plus HST.
Mhm.
Do you accept credit cards? Everybody should accept credit cards in this day and age. Or
And
each
if for some reason you don't have a payment plan, like you don't have a process, like you don't have your Square reader, or you're not set up, the Artist Network does offer a credit card service for a 5% flat fee. So because we have to pay the fees or whatever, right, for the cards or whatever. But if you want, you can go to the Artist Network booth if you're a member, and they'll help you do transactions. Jamie, we do it every single show. So I just want to point that out. There's some people who don't know how to take credit cards or aren't comfortable doing it. So
but it's a good skill to learn.
yeah, it is
do
definitely.
you
And it's a very easy thing to be able to do. If you have a decent phone, you should be able to do it. Just get a Square reader.
Yeah.
What kind of a cash float do you recommend?
So can you repeat that?
What kind of a cash float would you recommend?
Oh, I don't take any cash myself. Well, I take some cash, but I don't take any cash for that purpose, because I find
a little bit. I think if you sell smaller work, Jamie, so you sell pretty much all large pieces, right?
Yeah,
So some
yeah.
people who have smaller work. So I don't take a large cash float. I just make sure that I have small bills.
Yeah.
So I'll keep my 5s and 10s for a little bit, or I'll ask my husband for like small change and stuff, and I'll keep 2s and like, so that I have like if someone gives me $100 bill, I have like a 20 to give them, or a 5 to give them, or a 10 to give them.
Mm.
Like this past weekend, someone wanted to pay cash for something, and I had to give them change, like
Yeah.
$15 or something. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to comment on the discounts for multiple sales. I think art is a little bit different from a lot of other processes in that there is no saving in doing two pieces of art. Each piece takes the same amount of time. So really there's no rationale for a discount unless you want to encourage that person to buy it.
mhm.
So you shouldn't feel obligated or like it's a valid discussion point from their perspective.
I would think most artists don't discount their work.
Yeah.
I think you should price your work appropriately. You
Where
should try
you're
not-
comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question about that.
Mhm.
How often should your prices go up? I keep having to creep up my prices slightly after every show this year because I nearly sell out. But is that recommended?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. If you're selling out, you might be priced too low, or you're just very interesting and engaging artist, and people are really like curious about your work, and you're new on the scene and people really want your work, right? So I'm
Yeah.
not saying that it's priced too low, but it might be priced too low. So it's time for you to talk to other artists and just do a bit of research on your pricing.
Yeah.
Like Jamie, would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, if what a great problem to have.
Like there was an artist at Riverdale, and I bought one of her pieces, and I told her, like, honestly, your price needs to be double. Like for your smalls, like you need to be charging way more for your work. Like she basically almost sold out of her booth, except for a couple of large pieces, and she had a show the next weekend, but her prices were way too low. Like you walk around, if you're wondering about your pricing, go to these art shows and take a look at other people's pricing, like, or go online. Most people have, like honestly, with COVID, almost everybody was selling online. People are selling way more online. They have systems on their websites. You can look at other people's pricing.
Yeah. And if you decide on Friday that your pricing is still too low, there's nothing wrong with going home Friday night and redoing your price cards and swapping them out on Saturday morning. You know,
Pricing is always a difficult thing. It's kind of like a scary thing. I had that issue this year too. So not easy. I would just say keep researching. And I would say, like, I know I told that one artist she needed to double some of her pricing. But I think like I would maybe go slow, like I think creeping up each show or whatever, I think that's not a bad thing to do.
no, you're right. Do you accept checks? I personally, I do. Not everybody feels comfortable accepting checks. Do you deliver the work? I think the opportunity to deliver the work is fabulous because then you know where the person lives. You know what their walls look like. And whenever I deliver something to somebody, I always keep a couple extra pieces in the car. I'm able to do that because it's a van. But just in case there's another opportunity that might present itself while I'm there delivering the first piece.
Mhm.
It's worked a couple times. It doesn't work every time.
It's definitely a
sometimes
tactic that galleries use.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Galleries do it all the time.
sometimes they don't let you in through the front door. They just take the piece. But at least then I know that, yeah, okay, it's an opportunity. It's a free opportunity.
Mhm.
You don't have to pay a show fee.
Mhm.
And
The one thing that I don't have that's not listed here that I just started this year, which might be interesting for some people. And this last show I was in this past weekend, I had somebody just said that I think she's going to come back to me and buy a piece, but a payment plan. I don't know how many people do payment plans, but I've just introduced that with my larger work. So anything over $2,000, I'll take a payment plan over 12 months, and anything over $1,000, I'll take a payment plan over 6 months. And this one woman who was in my booth, and I know other people who have sold like that. Just 2 days ago, she said to me, she goes, oh, that maybe I'll be able to get it right now. Then I won't have to wait. And she said, I'm going to let you know this week.
yeah, I use a payment plan also.
Do you?
And I do it for everything over 1,500. I'll offer it. And I take 20% up front And then the balance is 12 payments with no interest charges.
Mhm.
And I think I've used it, I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years, and I think I've used it maybe 10 times. And in a couple of cases, people have paid everything off early.
Mhm.
And I think it's a real good hook now, because people, it's not necessarily the fact that the painting is $2,000 or $3,000. It's the fact that it's $2,000 or $3,000 today,
Right,
which makes
yes.
people nervous. So
That's
any
what,
way you can make them happy about that, go for it.
yeah.
And it's up to you how diligent you want to be in terms of collecting information about them or not. You have to make that judgment yourself.
Mhm.
At the start, I was very anal about things, and I was collecting driver's license numbers, addresses, show me something with your address and all that stuff. Now I've gotten comfortable with most people are honest, and I could do a lot of payments by e-transfer.
Mhm.
So I'm trusting them that they're going to send me money every month.
Well, if you get a deposit from them, you can give, so I bought a receipt booklet so that I could do that, Jamie. So that I could, their first payment, I can give them a receipt and then write on that receipt, just the like phone number, email address, and
Yeah.
address, just a little bit of information, and basically say first of 12 payments or something. And then, you know what I mean? Like you just kind of, there's some sort of formal documentation that
I
kind
always
of
get
is helpful.
always get their email, and I do send them a follow-up thing saying, okay, so the payment schedule's this and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And but I've become, maybe it's too casual about it, but I haven't been burned by it. So I'm you know,
I know a bunch of people who use it quite a bit and they have had no problems, so.
yeah, I think most of the world's honest,
Mhm.
especially art buyers.
Yeah.
They're the most honest people.
All right, so this last, I think this is one of our last slides here, just about payment systems, just a reminder. So Square is a pretty common reader that a lot of artists and people use at trade shows and these outdoor shows, and it's super easy to get. This is an old version here that they show here, but there's even these tap versions. I would just recommend you get have them to insert the card versus tapping. So
Mhm.
I guess just after the show, Jamie, do you want to talk about what to do after the show?
Yeah, yeah. So as at the show, you're collecting emails from people, and whether you get 4 or whether you get 100, it's always good to send out an email acknowledging that they're part of your system and thanking them for attending. And if there's anything they can do or you can do for them, please let you know. And if you know what piece they were looking at, I'll also send them an image of that piece. Because that helps keep it in front of their face. And tell them that they're on the email list, and so on and so forth, and let them know that the next email they'll get from me will be announcing next series of shows, or whatever it would be. Or if I've got an internal sale going on for my mailing list, I try to give my mailing list people something during the year, whether it's access to sale prices, and I'll put a discount code that they can use on the website, or anything of that nature. Or maybe I'll have a show here at home in the backyard or something. Taking time to evaluate how it went. And yeah, you have to be critical with yourself about this. Because if the show goes bad for you, don't think that that's the way everything's always going to go. It's important not to get down about a bad show. I do 15 shows a year because I know a couple of them are going to be bust.
Like from a sales perspective, Jamie, you mean like bust,
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
just didn't sell a lot there?
Yeah, so I'm counting on making it up on average. You have to look at everything on an average over the year, over the course of the year.
And I
Anyone
just,
can be terrible.
yeah, and I just want to encourage people that evaluating a show isn't just sales. It's also on, like, there's also other things that people are trying to evaluate their work on, or like you learn all different kinds of elements, especially if you're new to these shows. Like, what can you do to present your work better? How can you display your work better? How can I talk about my work better? Like,
Yes.
and like all these things, you're evaluating how you're doing and how you're presenting yourself as an artist. How can you present your brand better? Like all these different things that you can do improvement, or how can you connect with your client base better? Right. So
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
always just direct sales. You've been around for a long time, Jamie, but for me, a lot of it's like, well, what can I do better? It's always like building.
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. That was my mistake in ignoring that aspect. But that's true because and you also have to look back and say, like I did a show this year and I'll never do that show again. It was the first time I had done that show. I'd heard nothing but good things about it. I think it was a disaster. It was poorly organized. It was yeah, the attendance wasn't great. It was just I won't do it again. And it was a show that because I did it, it messed up shows on either shoulder because I was just too tired from I did too many shows in a row. So yeah, you have to say, okay,
But
so
that's also doing your research before you're part of a show. Is it the right show for you, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of these shows they're building. So I think, so for me, often I always say I have to do a show twice before I know whether it's a good show or not, right? Because
Yeah.
I think COVID's really mixed things up a lot. People are used to buying online. People are traveling more. Maybe that's what they're spending their money on. A lot of people bought art during COVID. Like there's a lot of variables out there right now. Galleries are having a hard time right now. So I would say, give yourself grace, do the thing that you can do really well, present yourself well, put your best foot forward, and try to stay positive during the show. And then post-event follow-up, like you're building your audience over time, especially if you're new. That's what I'm doing. I'm building my audience.
Yeah. Delivering your sold items promptly. Yeah. Because you want to strike while the iron's hot. Filling out the post-event survey. Angela sends out a survey after every show, and I guess we get what, maybe 30 or 40% response.
Yeah, about that. Maybe sometimes I get 50, but I'm lucky if I do that.
Yeah.
We can't learn how to do our shows better if you don't respond, right? So
yeah, if we can boost that the response percentage, I mean, the shows will continue to get better. And one thing's for sure, the shows that the network and Angela put on, there is a far more support than any other show in the city or out of the city. So you're getting a very spoiled version of shows here. And you have to bear that in mind too.
we hope anyway, we hope we give you a good support and that it's an awesome show for you. I think that's our last slide, Jamie.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any other questions, Barb. I'm gonna get out of this so at least I can see people.
I think the answer, I think we're okay, caught up. Yeah.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I know that we went a little over time, a half an hour over time. There's always lots of good questions. Jamie, thanks so much for participating and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with all these new artists.
I just see a question from Eddie. When do you give the painting with a payment plan? I let people take it right away if they want to take it, or I'll deliver it.
Yeah, that's the benefit of a payment plan. You get it now.
Yeah.
Right. I do the same thing.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody. I think this was very informative, and seeing as we're the newbies on the block, most of our immediate questions were answered. And Jamie, thank you for your insights, and Angela, to you, and also to Barbara. And I'll probably be dropping by the gallery soon to ask a few more personal questions.
Yeah, and you can always shoot me an email if anybody has questions. There's a lot of information in the artist handbook, so please take a look at that. Pop by the property, familiarize yourself with the space. We used to have our orientations on site so that people would get to see the space. But yeah, that's great.
Terrific.
Okay.
Oh, someone's asking, when do we get the booth numbers? Eddie is asking.